Hello.
Hello everyone. Now we're gonna start our technical session one. Right now we are just waiting for our keynote speaker, Dr. Jain Mishra sir. Hello everyone. I, Pratishtha, wishing a very warm good afternoon, Your Highness, Excellencies, dignitaries. It gives me immense pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to extend to you a very warm welcome on behalf of the GS Lohia Girls College, who has clubbed all of us for this seminar. Now, we are entering into the first technical session of today's international webinar based on the topic Atmanirbhar issues and concerns, organized by IQAC GS Lohia Girls College, India, GS Lohia Girls College in Colorado, Council of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, and All India Manufacturers Organization, Assam. We will abide by the following modus operandi for all technical sessions. First, technical session will start with the host introducing the chairperson. Secondly, the chairperson will call the keynote speaker to deliver his keynote address. Third, after the keynote address, paper presentation will begin. Fourthly, workshops, seminars, and summer winter schools on behavioral finance. He is also associated with the incubation cell of IIITA and helping in incubating new startups. Besides, he is also passionate about writing poetry and quiz competitions. A very warm welcome to our keynote speaker, sir, and session chair, sir. We are honored to have both of you today among us. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now request our chairperson, Dr. Ranjit Singh, sir, to call upon the presenters. Now, I'd like to request Hiranmay Bhuya and Bhaskar Saikya to get ready for their presentation. I request Silpa Sahu and Ramjanul Haq to get ready for their turn.
Sorry, there is one change in the agenda. I think you have missed out. The session will start with the keynote speech of our keynote speaker, and then it will followed by the paper presentations. Is that okay? Am I audible? Am I audible? Hello. Okay. So let me take the privilege of inviting Professor J.N. Misra to deliver his keynote speech. Professor Misra, hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, Professor Misra is having some problem. He's suffering from some fever and the cough since many days, and that's why he has requested me to that he will be delivering a short speech, a short keynote address, and then he's not physically well right now. So let me take the privilege to request Professor J.N. Misra. Professor Misra, besides, he is the dean in the University of Swords, but previously he was formerly professor, then the director and the registrar of University of Allahabad. And one introduction is that he is a prolific researcher, and as many as 28 to 30 number of research scholars, PhD research scholars have completed their PhD under his able supervision and guidance. He's such a learned and experienced person. Many scholars represented have completed their research under his guidance. So he has several decades of teaching and research experience at the university level. So we are fortunate to have him amongst us. So thank you, sir. And sir, over to you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ranjit. First of all, I extend to my thanks and gratitude to the organizers of the GS Lohia College and the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. And I am a proud privilege to be over here. And all credit goes to Dr. Ranjit Singh, who has given this opportunity. And I was not in position to say no to Dr. Ranjit. Thank you very much, Ranjit. Really. Now today, in this webinar, the topic which has been taken, actually, the Atmanirbhar Bharat, local to global. Much debate in the country is going on in the different part about the Atmanirbhar Bharat. And I think this thing in this year of 2020, due to this pandemic, actually the COVID has opened the path to discuss on this issue. Actually, what happened, all we know that due to this COVID-19, reduced business activities are there, reduce in the revenue, reverse migration, pressure on agriculture, unemployment has increased, lockdown issues actually reduce the business activities and so on. And resulted that there is due to these regions, there is a delink of supply chain. Circular inflow of income has declined. From income from household to the industry and industry to the household, that has been declined. On these lines, the people are much talking about this Atmanirbhar Bharat. In my opinion, Atmanirbhar Bharat, this is not new concept for India. Actually, earlier we were Atmanirbhar. There was self-reliance in the past, centuries ago. India was the only country which has given actually the way to the India has opened the way or given the message to whole of the world in the past regarding the humanity and the development through the model of self-reliance. Which now our Honorable Prime Minister is reviving this thing and reminding the peoples that go back to the glorious past for Atmanirbhar. Atmanirbhar actually is Atmanirbhar or self-reliance. There's two words, self-reliance and self-sustained. We are not talking about the self-sustained. No country in the world is self-sustained so far. Only we talk about the self-reliance. Even the self-reliance, total self-reliance is also not possible. Because there is uneven distribution of natural resources. There is no equality in the distribution of natural resources, which is beyond the human beings, which is beyond the control of the human being. So transactions has always been there. Transactions has always been, and transaction will continue. But what should be the result of that transactions actually? The deficit should not be there. We have to depend our own. Here in the self-reliance, Atmanirbharta, Atmanirbhar, it means we have to produce the things which are necessary for the human being by our own pupils in our own country. It means trade should be there. Trade should also be there, but the trade should be limited. हिंदी में अगर मैं कहूं मर्यादित व्यापार होना चाहिए, लिमिटेड ट्रेड, मर्यादित व्यापार होना चाहिए. The things which are not necessary, the things which are not actually mandatory for the human being, are not actually necessary for the human being, that should not be imported. If we need, we have to produce in our own country. For example, I am telling one of the examples. Decorative lights, we are importing from China. What is need of? Toys. Toys, can we be where actually the India has the skill? We can actually wear the toys from the clay, and it was. I remember my childhood. The toys were in the villages. Every village has to make the toys of clay. But we are now importing from China. The toys are imported from outside. There are a few of the examples I am giving you all these. I mean to say the foreign dependency should be reduced. And dependency, all we know that dependency is the cause of the problems. Dependency, much dependency becomes the cause of problems. Atmanirbharta is a natural concept. ये एक प्राकृतिक विचार है. We have to change our lifestyle. If we talk about the Atmanirbhar Bharat. But two examples I am giving you, even in the past, economist point of view. One economist was Leontief. Leontief was an international expert in the international trade, an American economist. Very rightly, one said, if I fully recollect, he said that Leontief said that the international trade is not in favor of developing countries. International trade, much international trade is not in favor of developing countries. This was the view of Leontief, an American economist. Another example I am quoting to one of the economists, Indian economists, were Dr. K.N. Raj. Professor K.N. Raj is well known. K.N. Raj has given a model actually. K.N. Raj model was the development with stagnant export. Development with stagnant export. K.N. Raj's view was that if the export is stagnant, import will also become stagnant. Import भी stagnant हो जाएगा. ये K.N. Raj का एक मॉडल था. उन्होंने कहा अब when if import is stagnant, then the people of our country or the people of a particular country will produce or manufacture the the things. They will produce the things. If the import is stagnant. और इतना ही नहीं है, this is not only. I was going through, everybody knows one of the book was written by Gandhi, Village Swaraj, Gram Swaraj. Gandhi has written that Village Swaraj in 1910 when he was in the way from South Africa to India. Now think, in the Village Swaraj, Gandhi ji actually said that if there is a need of alpine, so there is no need to purchase from others outside. Till we manufacture the alpine, we will work without alpine. The work will be without alpine. एक उदाहरण गांधी जी ने ये दिया था विलेज स्वराज. And Gandhi ji experimented or made a micro study between 1920 to 25. Or Gandhi's study was that we are exporting the minerals and the tea. Gandhi's study was so that 1920-25 from India there is export of minerals and the tea, which is a capital intensive, which creates employment, and that export should be restricted, that should be stopped, because the natural minerals and the tea which we are exporting as a raw material to those countries, that should be limited. That means that causes net destruction of income and employment. That causes net destruction of income and employment. And Atmanirbhar India was Atmanirbhar, that has been accepted by many of the scholars, even accepted by Lord Clive. Even the Lord William Bentinck had said the bones of the cotton weavers of Bengal are bleaching the plains of India. ये Lord William Bentinck ने कहा कि bones of cotton weavers of Bengal are bleaching the plains of India. Because all we know, we have the glorious past of the cottage and small scale industries. When no country was aware of the technology of the steel thousands and thousands years ago, India was the exporter of that. हम आत्मनिर्भर, self-reliance concept, but that has been destroyed by the colonial rule by middle of the 19th century. And our weavers and artisans. एक example मैं और देता हूँ. One of the example, one was the person was Manucci. Manucci was a Danish citizen and remained in India about 50 years. He was a private doctor of Aurangzeb. Everybody knows Aurangzeb. And I think he was the last king of the Mughal Empire, who died on 1707. During the period, Manucci has written that the only difference between the London and Murshidabad was that Murshidabad was much more prosperous than London. Murshidabad was the old capital of Bengal. Murshidabad was much more prosperous than London because in every hut, in every house, the pupils wear silk clothes and saris. Sweets were available. Everything was available, which was not available in London. That indicates our Atmanirbharta or our self-reliance. That's indicated. Gandhiji used to say that foreign trade is not favorable for underdeveloped or developing countries like ours. Gandhiji also used. There should be labor-intensive products in our country. Labor-intensive products, or which we have accepted in the industrial policy resolution of 1948 and 56. If you go through the first industrial policy resolution of 48, for the first time the cottage, small and the village industries importance was accepted. Definition was given in 1948 industrial policy resolutions and later on in 1956 policy. For the first time in free India, we have recognized. But actually, no doubt, people may raise the question that inflow of foreign capital has increased, which boosted the economy. Yes, but at the same time, deficit has also increased. If you see other side, the deficit has increased and continuously deficit increased. Even if you see the balance between the trade balance from 1950-51 to till date, continuously increasing the BOT, except 2 years. Everybody know in the year of 1972-73, which was plus by 74 crores, and in the 76-77, which was plus by 104 crores. Otherwise, trade deficit has been continuously increase. So then there is need for that. And the trade should be actually objective. If there is trade, just now I'm talking, trade should be objective. If I talk about the objective for trade, that means on demand, on time, right type of product at the right time, at the right price should be available, which is not possible. Again, quoting the example of 1943 of the Great Famine of Bengal, where 30 lakhs people died due to starvation. Food grains imported, and food grains could not be reached. We were not able to save the life of 30 lakhs people of this country. So trade should be objective. On demand, on time. What is need after now the Atmanirbhar Bharat? What to do? What is the need of the others? Again, I am talking about the Gandhiji because I want to say in very nutshell, in totality, that today the Gandhian economics become relevant. Today the Gandhian economics is very, very relevant when we talk about the Atmanirbhar Bharat. Gandhiji used to say that India's salvation in India's village. India's salvation in India. Bharat ka moksha Bharat ke gaon. Gandhiji was never against the technology. Would criticize Gandhi. Gandhi was against the machines and technology. No. Gandhiji used to say that technologies should be, our machines should be manufactured by our own peoples in our country, repaired by our own peoples, used by our own peoples. Then we will welcome. अपन हमारे लोगों के द्वारा मशीन बने, हमारे लोगों के लिए बने, हमारे लोग उसकी मरम्मत करें और हमारे लोग उस पर उसका स्वागत है. तो Gandhian economics is very relevant. Means seeing the country's size of population, production should also be through the labor-intensive technology. And now today in the pandemic, we see there was one reverse flow of migrations. And earlier, the village were independent units. Earlier, the village were independent. Village were autonomy to the villages. Village were independent units. That is why Gandhi used to say Gram Swaraj, village Swaraj. Everything were produced by the villagers. There was interdependency among themselves. X commodity I produce, Y you produce, and then we have to meet our requirements, meet our needs. If we talk about the Atmanirbhar Bharat, so then we have to follow the Gandhian paths. Means use local natural resource, use locally, but go globally. Produce locally, send it globally. Mutual dependency रखें, परस्पर निर्भरता रखें. Change your lifestyle. We should be need-based rather than want-based. We should be need-based rather than want-based. We have to change our attitudes. We have to change our attitudes. Villages, again, villages should be encouraged to be becoming independent units. Local supply chain should be changed. Local supply chain should be changed. And moreover, we have to take from the nature whatever the necessary. Exploit उतने करें nature को जितनी हमें आवश्यकता है. We have to change our, that's what I want to say, we have to change our lifestyle. We have to change our lifestyle. We have to change our social structure. We have to change our work culture. We have to change our trade policy. We have to change our economic policy, or restructure, or readjust our economic policies, or various policies. And ultimately, we have to rethink to revival of the small sector, the skill which has been destroyed. You see carpenters or lohars to whom you say, weavers, we have to encourage them. Then the local products will come and globally we will go to the market. And we must be optimistic. Atmanirbhar Bharat, ye hoga when we become need-based, change our attitudes, change our work culture, change our behavior, change our actually the policies, and it is a need of the hours. And all these philosophies are Atmanirbhar Bharat is based on the Gandhian economics, in my opinion. I will not take much time. Thank you very much, all of you, given this opportunity in this international webinar. And once again, I thanks to the organizer of the college, Institute of Chartered Accountant of India, and a special thanks to coach, Dr. Ranjit Singh, who has really given this opportunity. And to be over here. Thank you very much. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, Jai Atmanirbhar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for your enlightening words. Now, I would like to hand over the session to Mr. Ranjit Singh, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for your enlightening words. And if the entire session has to be summarized, then your speech was the best way to summarize the entire session. So thank you, sir, for your gracious presence and giving your time. I know that you are not physically well, but in spite of that, and at this age also, you are so active. So you are inspiration for all the youngsters to work the way you are working. So now let me call upon the paper presenters one by one. So there are how many papers? I think there are 5 papers in this session. Is it?
Oh, 5, sir.
Okay. So let us give 10 minutes time to each of the paper
First is
presenters.
Dhananjay Bhunia, Bhaskar Sakya.
Yeah. So Bhaskar Saiki and
They could not join, sir.
okay.
The next
So
is Shilpa Sahu and Ramjanul Haq.
okay. But in the meantime, just let me know who is the reporting this session. Who is reporting?
Sir Sonam ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Fine.
Sonam
Good.
Agarwal, assistant professor.
Okay. Thank you. So. Thank you so, ma'am. So, with your permission and with the permission of our keynote speaker, let us start our technical sessions. So, Ramjanul Haq and Silpa Sahu. So, please come. You will be having 10 minutes of time to present your paper. I know 10 minutes time is not enough to present the entire work that you have done and not sufficient to present a paper, but 10 minutes is too sufficient a time to present an idea. So, just throw the idea and then it will be followed by a question answer session. Thank you. Paper presenters, please. Ramjanul.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, all. Myself, Ramzanul Haq, and I'm presenting a paper on the study of perception of youth towards handloom industries as entrepreneurial activity leading to self-dependent India. First, moving to the introductory part. According to the 4th India Handloom Session, which is held 2019-20, there were over 3.5 million handloom workers allied and are about 24% of overall workers in India. In the financial year 2019, the US was the major importer of the Indian handloom products, followed by UK, Italy, and Germany. If we talk about the northeastern part, Assam alone record for 46.8% of the total number of handloom in the country, and it consists of 12.41 lakh handloom households and 39% of the total handloom workers. It is the second largest employment provider after agriculture to rural India. 43.31 lakh persons are basically engaged in handloom sector, which constitute 36.33 rural areas and from 6.98 from urban area. Thus, we can. This is because it mainly involves with the rural area. It's the perception of most of the persons that handloom sector is mainly activity of rural areas. The major products or fabrics produced by the handlooms are the gamusa and the mekhla chadar, which is mainly prepared in the northern state of India. Now moving towards the objective of the study. This objective has been, this paper has been conducted on the basis of the objective to understand the perception of the respondent regarding the handlooms industry and their preference toward the industry as entrepreneurial activities. I mean, how many, it means that how respondents respond toward the handloom industry and how, next, relevance of the study. Handloom industry is significant for the economy, not only because of the low capital investment, but in a high potential for export and foreign exchange earning. It also acts as a linkage with the rural farm economy. This sector is critical for growth of the economy and a self-dependent Bharat owing to its huge prospect of export, employment generation, and foreign exchange reserve. This industry is mostly considered to be a rural job and traditional work. Thus, the paper attempts to study the perspective of youth on this industry and how it can contribute to the bridge of self-dependent Bharat. Next, research methodology. The present study is basically descriptive in nature, and for the conducting the study, both primary and secondary data has been collected. And for the collecting of primary data, the respondents were selected of the students who are basically pursuing graduation or who are in the last semester of their graduation. The study is basically conducted on the students of Digboi College, which is located in the Digboi. The respondents were given a particular kind of questions, and personal interview has been taken, and a similar kind of question were asked to them, and from that question we have concluded some conclusions. Now moving towards the finding. For the finding part, we can say that majority of the respondents are partially aware of the various government schemes meant for handlooms, weavers, and allied workers. The reason is that no educational qualification or institute organizes such program to teach about the handloom sector and its related element, and most of the time handloom sector is ignored while discussing about the business and entrepreneurship. Next, the handloom sector is generally viewed to be connected to the illiterate people, due to whom this sector rarely gets limelight at national level. But in rural area, it is a great source of earning for money. Though the government has introduced many schemes in order to assist the handloom sector, but the implementation of a scheme is still questionable. A lot needs to be done to aware people about the importance of handloom sector, developing skill of weavers by training, including computerized design skill as well as promotional measures. The handloom sector can contribute a lot to the path of self-dependent and self-nation, as it can not only create enterprise and employment, but also reduce import to a greater extent. Lack of brand name, logo, as well as high price makes the handloom products less attractive to customers. Next, males are found to be least interested toward this sector, as the handloom works are regarded as women work. There should be awareness program on this sector in order to discuss the importance of the sector to the economy and the scope of growth. The mentality of handloom being connected to women should be altered by promoting handloom work as not a gender-based work, and giving example of male figure who are successful handloom entrepreneurs. Training and skill development program should be regularly organized in both urban and rural areas, as urban youth are full of modern ideas and rural youth are full of knowledge on the art and craft of nation. Both the areas can combine together to form a better enterprise. Next, supporting the handloom sector financially, allotting a department as well as the official term monitoring them. It means basically they face a monetary problem. It means that in order to start the handloom sector, money is also an important factor. For this reason, if we provide a smooth credit facility to them, then it will be very much beneficial. Now, for the concluding part, we can say that the youth need to be encouraged to enter into this sector by organizing training and workshop in educational institutions. Technical training was not found to bring any satisfactory result, despite computers being provided to weavers through workshop or skill development courses. Though the handloom sector was a high potential of employment generation for unorganized workers and supporting a self-dependent India, it still lacks the designation of a preferred career in entrepreneurial activity. In rural areas also, most women weavers are engaged in this activity as a part-time endeavor, as they do it along with household chores and family care work. Lack of brand name as well as high price makes the handloom product less attractive to customers. The belief of handlooms industry being connected with illiterate or rural women, especially women, needs some changes. E-commerce platform like eDhaga mobile app launched by National Handloom Development Corporations are a great step, but along with it, measures should be adopted to regular flow of credit to this sector. Private enterprise can connect through CSR activities, which may help in solving the marketing related issue as well as brand name logo. Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir. Your time is up now.
Thank you, ma'am. I have completed my presentation.
Thank you, Ramjanul and Silpa Sahu, for your presentation. Now the paper is open for any question and any discussion. So anyone having any questions to the paper presenters may feel free to ask. Any question to the presenters about the paper? Any query, clarification, suggestion? Okay, I think there are no questions. Ramjanul, you have presented well, and your topic was perception about the handloom industry.
Yes, sir.
Okay. By whom? By the students or by the workers?
By the students of their perception of whether they are interested in the handloom industry.
Okay. So your objective was to study the perception of handloom workers. So just
Yes,
there are certain suggestions which you have to incorporate in your study before sending it to the publication.
Yes,
That your objective was about the perception, but your research methodology that you have adopted and the questions that you have asked to the respondents, they should be specific to the perception part only. But instead of studying the perception, you have studied about the awareness about the scheme, whether the schemes are implemented or not, whether their training has been imparted or not. See, perception itself is a very complex phenomena, and to study perception, you need to build a scale.
yes,
Okay, maybe a Likert scale or binomial scale, or there are so many skills are there. So your objective, you should be focused only to study the perception part only, nothing beyond that. You are not, your objective was not to study the implementation or awareness or the training program. These are not part of the perception. Second, whenever we talk about the perception is always related to certain other construct, like perception with respect to risk, perception with respect to quality, that is service quality, perception with respect to assurance or reliability, or so on and so forth. So perception in general cannot be, or it should not be an objective. Okay, rather, like most of this kind of questions are for attitude towards handloom industry. But here your objective is perception, so perception has to be very specific. Number one. Then coming to your conclusion, just let me ask you a question: that if I have some problem, say I visit to a pathologist to get my blood tested whether there are glucose, that is sugar is there in my blood or not. Okay, So what the pathologist will report, he will just tell about a blood sugar, the level of blood sugar in a person's body.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
that will be reporting.
Yes,
Here,
sir.
your objective was to study the perception of the handloom workers, and your suggestion and finding was like there was a need of financial support and so forth, and these are not synchronized with the methodology and the findings. Fine.
Yes, sir.
What you are studying, your methodology should be followed in tune with that, and your findings should be what exactly was your objective, and the suggestion was to with respect to your objective only, nothing beyond that.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Just you incorporate all these things in your paper
Yes,
so
sir.
that when you can, before sending it to publication to
Yes, sir.
any just incorporate all these changes. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. Thank you, sir.
The next paper presenter is Miss Rajeshri Goi Borgohain. So, madam, are you present? Yes, I could see
Yes,
you.
sir.
Yeah, madam, please.
Yeah.
You will have 10 minutes of time to present your paper.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Good afternoon to the esteemed participants. Myself, Rajeshri Gogoi Borgohain from Dibrugarh University. Without me wasting much time, let me share the screen. So, can you see my screen? Hello?
No, it's not visible.
Okay. So, I think it is visible now.
Now it's visible.
Yes. The title of the study is The Role of an Incubation Unit with special reference to Northeast Agriculture Technology Entrepreneurs Hub. The term Atmanirbhar Bharat, build local to go global, portray creation and innovativeness in itself, tracing empowerment to be self-sustained and financially reliable. Creation and innovativeness, when put in the right place to relish commercial benefit, can help one become financially self-reliant. In this conjuncture, the grooming of budding entrepreneurs is utmost essential. Time and again, the weightage to work upon promotion of entrepreneurship education was felt, and hence institutional setup called incubation units are started. Northeast Agriculture Technology Entrepreneurs Hub, abbreviated as NEET Hub, is one such institution situated in the state of Assam, India. Entrepreneurship mentoring and training is vital before initiating any business venture. Thus, the researcher has felt the pertinent need to study the role and functioning of the concerned incubation unit. Incubation support is an integral part of Startup India campaign. Atal Innovation Mission is a flagship initiative set up by the NITI Aayog to promote innovation and entrepreneurship, which includes setting up Atal incubation centers both in the public and private sector. The mission aims in setting up world-class incubators at the university, NGO, SME, and corporate industry levels. A grant of Rs 10 crores is allocated to each under this mission. Northeast Agriculture Technology Entrepreneurs Hub, located in Assam, India, is one such incubator introduced and financed under Atal Innovation Mission. NEET eHub is located in Assam Agricultural University campus in Jorhat district of Assam, India. The Select Incubator firmly has an analogical belief that providing incubation services to any business idea is just like bird sitting on her eggs, caring and nurturing them to enable them to take birth, learn, grow, and fly. The concerned incubator aims to create sustainable entrepreneurial ecosystem to build startups in agriculture and allied sectors. It highlights its focus.
Madam, please directly come to your objective part. Well, these are the things we know. Come to your objective part.
Okay, sir. So, as it is shown in the screen, The first objective is to study service offerings of NEET eHub. The second objective to know the details of the business ventures supported by NEET eHub. The third objective is to identify the generic challenges encountered by them in providing such incubation services. The significance, studying the role of an incubation unit suitably fit into the main theme of inculcating Atmanirbhar Bharat. Innovation and creativity must be infused upon the young minds. The study is rooted to know the incubation service offerings in the agricultural sector, which is well fabricated to the social norms and practices. The concerned research paper also provides insightful information by delineating the kind of business ideas which are actually supported and nurtured by the incubator, among others. The scope of the study, the domain of the study rests upon a single incubator. Northeast Agriculture Technology Entrepreneurs Hub is deliberately chosen for the conduct of the study. Research methodology, the research design is basically descriptive and analytical. It is descriptive because it aims to describe the role of NEET eHub by studying the various service offerings as an incubator and also identify some generic challenges encountered by them as an incubator. On the other hand, the research is analytical from the point of view that details of the records regarding the business ventures nurtured till date, which are already maintained by the incubator, is collected to suffice the second objective. The director of NEET eHub is contacted to collect the primary data. The data is collected through an open-ended questionnaire to fulfill all the three objectives of the study. Next, the findings. The service offerings, firstly, the awareness. On questioning about the procedure adopted for the coming in contact with the interested participant, it conducts sensitization camps, workshops to create awareness about its incubation services. Some of these events are also held in educational institutions, research institutions, scientific community, etc. Next, mentoring, training, and business coaching. On questioning about the duration of the mentoring, they opine that for the idea stage or pre-seed program, they have a 2-month mentoring program. For the startup stage, they have a 4-month program. Moreover, the incubators continue to be handheld and mentored beyond the stipulated periods mentioned above. The program broadly covers the following topics for mentoring or business coaching: basics of entrepreneurship, soft skills needed for entrepreneurs, understanding the entrepreneur ecosystem, business plan for the venture, marketing management, financial management, and access to mentoring, technical and business. Next is customization. On questioning whether they provide customized training sessions for different business ideas, they address that there are both combined sessions as well as individual sessions. They provide them for the combined ones, and as regards for customized individual ones, they do it one-on-one. They use several business tools such as customer relationship management software, managing social media platforms, online advertising, content creation, and design for the same. Next, industry linkage and networking. They get in touch with the relevant stakeholders at their own events as well as industry meets, business conferences, and networking events for building a proper industrial linkage. Next, legal and quality assurance services. On questioning about the quality assurance services, the incubator facilitates access to in-house facilities, equipment that are available in the agricultural university campus, laboratories at their institutional and network partners facilities, etc. Next, product development, testing, and validation. On questioning about the procedure for testing and validation, they opine that once an incubatee is inducted as per the stage and need of the product for testing or validation, it is taken up. The incubator shall submit a timeline. Components of activities are taken up either in-house or other facilities, including in-built testing or validation. Next, technology transfer and IP portfolio management. It includes educating the incubatees on the management of intangible assets of a business, such as patent, trademark, copyright, designs, know-how, licensing agreements. Knowing about the database management of such assets is necessary on the path of intellectual asset management. Lastly, seed fund and access to investment. There is a provision to provide a one-time seed grant to initiate the entrepreneurial business. A seed fund is the grant provided which is non-returnable in nature. This amounts up to 10 lakh. For the bridge fund, up to 50 lakh is allowed. And lastly, venture capital fund up to 1 crore or above is also managed for the incubator's new business venture. Next, the slide shows the business venture details. Although there are many, I'm going to spell out some innovative business ideas supported by the concerned incubation unit. It includes
Ma'am, please
business
conclude.
ideas.
Please conclude. Time is almost over.
Okay, sir. So the conclusion part, the study underlying the different service offerings of the Select Incubator will be of immense help to all those who have some innovative ideas. The buzzword Atmanirbhar Bharat, build local to go global, needs holistic approach to achieve heights in true sense. The researcher believes that spreading awareness to the interested masses through an academic communication medium is one such approach. Needed support in post-product launch must be equally provided. 14 P's of marketing must be given due weightage by every incubators. According to the survey, low-level awareness and attracting young incubators are prominent challenges. The suggestion put forward to mitigate such challenge would be to introduce entrepreneurship management in the syllabi at the school level. Hands-on session must be given to students as assignments to frame their own business plans. It is noteworthy to mention that working upon creative ideas and financial literacy are the two sides of a coin in order to configure a sustainable business. Therefore, the relevance of a financial education for the benefit of deciding the optimal capital structure for business and also for managing one's personal finances is important to be imparted at an early stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Rajeshri Gogoi, for your presentation. Now the paper is left open for discussion. So anyone who is present here having any question, any suggestions, query, please ask it to the paper presenters. So there are no questions. Madam, your topic was role of incubation unit, and you have taken a case study of one incubation unit. First thing is that these are only suggestions, so you have to just incorporate it if you want to submit it to some good journals for publications. First one is that when only one unit is taken to be studied, then it becomes a case study type of research. And when case study type of research has to be done, then it has to be go deeper and deeper. And whatever is your findings, it has to be supported with the data and the facts and the cases and the references which were missing. So just try to bring out some more data to validate your findings, to substantiate your findings. And the last one is, whatever is your finding, that has to be supported by, that has to be validated. And who will validate it? Some of the research work of the earlier researchers. So whatever is your finding, whether it is similar to your previous research work or previous finding, or it is contradictory to that, that has to be mentioned in the conclusion and policy implication part. Implication part has to be very much clear. It may be policy implication, then the managerial implication, what will be the managerial implication of your study, then societal implication and the research implication. If someone else further wants to venture into this area, what will be the research scope for that person? That has to be clearly spelled out in the implication section. So please do all these corrections or suggestions and just try to publish it in some good journals. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Vivek Gupta. Next paper presenter is Vivek Gupta.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Vivek Gupta is it Vivek
Sir,
Gupta?
Sir, it's Viveka Gupta.
Acha, Viveka Gupta. Okay, madam. So please present your paper. You have 10 minutes of time to present your paper.
Yes, sir.
Try to complete it.
Sir, 1 minute, sir.
Your screen is visible, madam. So please open your PPT and present.
Yes, sir. Yes, 1 minute. So my screen, is it visible? Hello?
Yes, it's visible. It's visible.
Okay, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here today to present a paper on overcoming the problems of water crisis and setting up Atmanirbhar Bharat. So Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, this Abhiyan is announced with a special aim to give an upliftment and magnify the economic slowdown and provide financial support that had suffered a loss during the lockdown, and mainly focus on not being self-centric but being self-supported. So that is a small description about Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now coming to the main paper. So in order to become self-reliant, water is one of the basic amenities which one should preserve and conserve to make a country a self-reliant one. Now, how much water does India have? India is a water-rich country and is blessed with plentiful around 4% of the world's water resources. As we all know that water is one of the irreplaceable natural resources, and each and every living being needs water to survive. We all know that water and life are directly connected to each other, and no living being on this earth can break apart from one another. But the saddest part is that India is gradually becoming a water scarce country as water resources like ponds, lakes, and rivers are on a decline rate. India has been facing the worst water crisis like groundwater scarcity, water pollution are severely affecting the India's health, economy, environment, and food supply. Moreover, the demand for water among different sectors is increasing day by day due to population growth and economic development.
Madam,
And
directly come to your objective part, objective and methodology. This part is, these are okay.
okay, sir. Now coming to the objective part, so the main objective of my study is to analyze the different methods of water conservation, and my second objective is to motivate the people of India and all the different sectors of India about water conservation in order to ensure self-reliance. Now coming to the methodology part, this research study is completely secondary in nature as the topic is very much important and is the need of the hour in today's world. So therefore the study is conducted on the initiatives which is taken up by the different state governments, central government and individuals on their own. It also focuses on their new and innovative methods, ideas and programs on water conservation and management. And the necessary data were also collected from available secondary sources such as journals and the different websites. Now coming to the problems the different water problems which are faced by India. So the first point, it generally discusses about the problems of Indian rural women related to the water. In India, it is estimated that women spend 150 million work days every year fetching and collecting water. So this is the reason why girls often leave their schools in middle in order to take the responsibility of collecting water, taking care of their siblings and cattle. So this is not only a huge loss to women's income, but it is also a loss to the country as a whole. So the next problem which is faced by India is the agricultural sector. Agricultural is one of the most important sectors of the Indian economy, which nearly contributes 14% of the nation's GDP. Surprisingly, in order to produce 1 kg of rice, 3 to 5,000 liters of water is needed. In order to produce 1 kg of soya, 2,000 liters of water is needed. Then again, for 1 kg of wheat, 900 liters of water, and for 1 kg of potatoes, 500 liters of water is needed. So from this data, we can understood that water is the most critical resource of agriculture. Then comes the next problem, it is the problem which is related to rivers. That is, the rivers are facing the most water crisis problem. It is the Ganga river. That is, the Ganga is the India's largest river basin. Tons of religious waste such as flower offerings, ashes of dead bodies, idols, and other non-biodegradable trash such as plastics are thrown into the river Ganga, choking and blocking the drainage system. The next problem which is faced by India is the industries. There are many industries which are identified as water-intensive industries. Those water-intensive industries are sugars, distilleries, pulp and paper, tanneries, chemicals, dyeing, etc. As a result, and because of these water-intensive industries, water becomes polluted, giving severe health hazards and threat to every living being. And moreover, farmers specially rely on this water for agricultural purposes. Now, what are the different reasons for water crisis in India? The first is it's the lack of government planning. The second is increased corporate privatization, industrial and human waste, and government corruption. The next point is it is the water losses which is caused due to lack of proper maintenance of existing infrastructure. Then there are also issues of leakage, losses, water pricing, and metering of water. Now, what are the different steps to be taken into consideration in order to become self-reliant water? So the first step is the rainwater harvesting. As we can see, these are the different pictures, and these are the different rainwater harvesting structures that has been taken up by the Telangana government for water conservation, for the improvement and the enhancement of soil moisture and groundwater recharge. So if the other states of India also implement these strategies and learn something from the Telangana government, then in that case we can become a self-reliant water. The second is the zero liquid discharge. It's zero liquid discharge. It refers to a treatment process in which the plant discharges no liquid effluent into surface water, in effect completely eliminating the environmental pollution associated with treatment. So as you can see, these are the two images of zero liquid discharge plant. So if every
Madam, please conclude. Please conclude. Your time is over almost.
So coming to the conclusion part, so if the state government and central government, if they look into this matter very seriously, then we can say that that water is used for various industrial purposes like manufacturing and processing of many products. So to conclude, water scarcity has become a major problem and it is increasing day by day. So for becoming an Atmanirbhar Bharat, need of the realization is that the people of India come and pledge together for water savings, and so that the future generation do not need to see water in just a bottle form. So, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Viveka Gupta. So, any question to the paper presenter? Anyone having any doubt, query, question, suggestions? Okay. Madam, your topic was on overcoming the problem of water crisis. Sorry, madam, but there is there is a difference between research paper and essay. So, just there are some of the things like why a person who is doing PhD is given a degree of Doctor of Philosophy, because philosophy has three elements. One is the metaphysics, epistemology, and axiology. So I do not have time to describe all of them, but the first one is the metaphysics, that is the beyond reality, looking beyond the reality. So whatever we have described, these are the physically or physically visible. So what drives all those changes that you have presented, that should be the matter of research. And the second thing is that one popular phrase which we have listening since our childhood, and we have been growing with that popular phrase in the cinema on the silver screen, is that सभी सबूतों और गवाहों के बयानातों के आधार पर अदालत ताजरात हिंद दफा 300 के 2 के तहत मुजरिम विजय को सजाए मौत की सजा मुकर्रर करती है. Now here सभी सबूतों और बयानातों, in research, if you have the data, that will be your sabut, and if you have references and citations, that will be your bayanat. And Tajirat-e-Hind is your research methodology. So data and evidence, data and reference, these are the two things which are required in order to make a paper to be called as a research paper. Otherwise, this will be simply your opinion. Thank you, madam.
Yes, okay.
Next paper presenter is Vidushi Chirania and Sambit Swain.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So you have just 10 minutes of time. Please be brief. Directly come to your objective part and methodology and describe the findings in 2 minutes.
So we won't take more than 10 minutes.
10 minutes or 10, 45.
Yes. So shall we start?
Start.
Our screen is open. Good morning, everyone present here. I, Vidushi Chirania, with my partner Sanbit Swain, is here to present on a topic, value chain framework to design solution. We all know that India is the fastest growing economy, and our Prime Minister has launched Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan with a vision of self-sufficient India. But the outbreak of COVID has brought everything to a halt and slowed down the process. It has immensely impacted on the food processing industries. Although the demand had gone up for the food industries, but production became difficult. The supply couldn't meet the needs and prices hiked up. The industries faced problems due to non-availability of raw material and logistics. It is very important for us to understand the current scenario and find some models for the industries to cope up with the new normal. The success model, the objectives are to find problems faced by Ma Durga Industries and design solutions. Also to understand the pre and post-COVID impact of Ma Durga Industries. To identify the consumer buying behavior for Ma Durga products by using some statistical tools. The SWOT analysis for the food processing industry. The strength is the vast market of manufacturing facilities all over the country and having a vast domestic market with availability of raw materials throughout the year. The weakness is the high capital requirement and inadequate linkage between research and development labs and industries. The opportunity for the food industry is to open up to the local market, which will lead to more exports and create employment. The threats is competition from the global players and also the loss of trained manpower to other industries due to better working conditions. Now, the company profile of Maa Durga Industries. Maa Durga Industries is a MSME company which is located in Tinsukia, Assam, which produces papad, besan, and packaging of soya bean. The raw materials are outsourced. The company is 80% automated, so it has very less human involvement. The human involvement is only used for temperature and quality checks. The company recycles all its products, so it has zero wastage. The company outsources all its logistics to the third party. The company uses a NAIF method for its production of materials. Research. Our research is done with 151 respondents, which were chosen by random and snowball sampling. We have used primary and secondary data. The primary data has been collected by interview method and semi-structured questionnaire, and and we followed an interview guide of ILO, International Labour Organization. Our secondary data includes data from the IBEF, which is the India Brand Equity Foundation, which established by the Commerce and Ministry of Commerce and Industry. We also used reports from journals, newspapers, and magazines. For analysis, we have used different statistical tools like t-test and regression analysis. The value chain analysis has been done by using the questionnaire which we have interviewed, and the fishbone models were used, which give us an outcome to understand the consumer buying behavior and also improve supply chain management. Now I would like to hand over to Sambit.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'll be talking about the value chain analysis that we have done. So looking into the value chain analysis, we have found that the main plus points that we have is the infrastructure. That is, they have a very good production unit, machinery, warehousing, and raw materials. And moving on to human resource management, there is continuous training programs and incentives and appraisals that is happening for all the new people. And as Vidusha has already stated that they use minimum amount of people, so the human resources issues can be reduced. So moving on to the technologies, it is a zero waste and 100% automized industry which uses machines for the production. Moving on to the procurement, which was the major issues during the COVID times, that is the raw materials that was brought from the suppliers from Delhi, which was taken care of after this hyper-local scenario. They have transferred and started collecting the raw materials from the local. Moving on to the next, about the fishbone analysis. So in the fishbone analysis, basically we have used the analysis to find out what are the main difficulties that has led due to the COVID industry. As we can see that there are 5 heads present, that is measurement, machines, people, material, environment, and methods. So if we talk about the measurements, we have to actually eliminate the manual handling hazards in the current scenario, maintain the demand and supply. Talking about the machines, the freezing of the machines, difficult to operate the machine is one of the issues. Due to the pandemic, there is no people to do R&D and help them to prepare the machines. Moving on to the people, like most of the people were migrant workers and they had to move back to their hometown, which led to lack of labors in the present scenario. Moving on to the methods, the training workers adapt to new environment is a bit difficult. And when we talk about the environment, that is obvious the spread of COVID and the lockdown situation has made very difficult. And talking about the materials, they uses the raw materials which are used for production has been stopped due to the stoppage of the railway freights. Moving on to the next, we have formed 5 hypotheses to find out the consumer behavior. So the first hypothesis is there is no significant difference in frequency buying of papad as compared to others. So when we are talking about others, in all the cases, we have also distributed another set of questions of Ayurveda, Ayurveda and steel products, which we have compared to find out the results. The second hypothesis which is accepted is there is no significant difference in buying behavior of papad due to COVID-19 as compared to others. The third hypothesis, which is rejected, is there is a significant difference in product attributes PAPAD as compared to others. The fourth hypothesis is there is significant difference in price PAPAD as compared to others. And the last hypothesis which is accepted is there is no significant difference in store attributes PAPAD compared to others. So next we move on to the regression model. So we have found out a small, we have done a regression analysis to find out the impact of the COVID, and we found out that the product, place, and promotions are the three independent variables in this regression models, which significantly contribute, whereas the variables which do not significantly contribute are prices and service. Moving on to the next, we have suggestions. So in case of suggestions, we have suggestions for the company on three basic subs, that is on the basis of employee, collaboration, and efficiency. Moving on to the employees, we have suggested them to maintain the safety and sanitization norms that has been given to the people and stated by the government of India. Social distancing should be implemented. Each staff is provided with protective gears and masks, shoe covers, gloves, and aprons while working. Every corner of the facilities should be sanitized every 2 hours. Even at the point of delivery, the organization has put strict measures to ensure safe delivery. When we talk about collaboration, we find out that 95% of the consumers have agreed to check out companies' advertising safety measures in social media and other advertising platforms. And 65% of the consumers have agreed to buy products online rather than buying in stores physically. Moving on to the increasing efficiency, what we have found out is 100% of the consumers are keen about their precautions and hygiene condition of the product and its delivery. 80% of the consumers are facing issues with unavailability of the stocks in nearby stores. So to ensure a wider variety, Maa Durga, what can do is it can easily go online and sell. And as we have talked about Atmanirbhar and hyperlocal, to get more raw materials from the local, and importing from outside companies should be restricted. Maa Durga should also have parallel dealers in local geographic location, which help in importing raw materials when needed. So moving on to the last, that is the limitation of the researcher. That is the first limitation that we have faced is the data collection. That is, we have collected only 151 samples of data in such a small stipulated amount of time. The sample size, the data has been collected via Google Forms only, and we may face redundancy effect.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Your time is
I
up
guess
now.
we have just 20 seconds left. The last point I'll complete it, ma'am. Self-reported data,
Okay.
as forms are filled by consumer were online instead of store, there is a chance of lack of information that was passed by the respondent. Thank you.
So thank you, Madam Vidushi Chirania and Sir Sambit Swain. So now, any question? Any question to the paper presenters? Okay. So since there is no questions from the audience, just a few suggestions. Your paper is well written, well presented. Just in order to improve this paper, there are certain suggestions. Number one, that the methodology section that you have mentioned, that you have adopted random and snowball sampling. Madam, random sampling, it falls in the domain of probabilistic sampling, and snowball sampling, it is a non-probabilistic sampling. So probabilistic, a combination of probabilistic and non-probabilistic sampling is not a good idea. So better have to stick with either with the random sampling or snowball sampling. Better in this case, you can go. You should go for,
Sir,
yes.
Sir, actually, we have used snowball sampling for the quantitative technique, sir. We have provided the question, like we have done both qualitative and quantitative research. So for quantitative, sir, we have used snowball.
And random? For what random sampling have been used?
Sir, am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible.
Yes, sir.
You
So for
have mentioned in your presentation that you have adopted random as well as snowball sampling. My simple submission is that both these techniques cannot be used simultaneously.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Like एक साथ नहीं होए भुवालू, हंसई ठठाई फुलावा ही गालू। एक साथ हंसना और गाल फुलाना दोनों एक साथ नहीं हो सकता.
Yes, sir.
So one falls in the probabilistic domain, another falls in the
Yes, sir.
non-probabilistic domain. So
Yes,
this
sir. Yes,
is
sir.
not possible. Second, you talked about this regression analysis.
Yes, sir.
I think you have gone for the multiple linear regression.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Multiple linear regression, sir.
If you have adopted snowball sampling, then
Yes, sir.
the chances are that your data will not be normal. So before running regression, linear regression, you have
Yes,
to check the normality of the data. There are several tests available.
So
Like
we have done Cronbach's alpha test.
the Cronbach alpha is not to test the
Reliability, sir.
Yeah, it is for reliability. It is not to test the normality of the data.
Yes, sir. So
Okay.
another
The reliability of the data is different, and normality is different,
sir.
and validity is different. Please be clear.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Sir,
Huh.
one point, sir. So basically, for snowball sampling, what we have done is we have sent a qualitative research, a set of questionnaire to the promoters, sir. For that, we have used snowball sampling, sir. Whereas for the primary data, that is through questionnaire, which we have used for t-test and regression analysis, we are using a random sampling.
Who were your respondent?
So for the respondent of primary data, they were the consumers, sir. Whereas in case of the qualitative technique, that is snowball sampling, we have used, sir, the promoters of the company, the CEOs and CFOs of the company.
So
sir.
why you have to go for snowball sampling? Don't you know the promoters of the company?
Yes, sir.
Is the data not available?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Everything is in the public domain. So why you have to go for the snowball sampling? Do you know the meaning of snowball sampling? Snowball sampling is used when you do not have any information about the respondent, like who might be your respondent, and that's why you have to go for snowball sampling. Here, everything is in the public domain. There is no need for going for the snowball sampling. Anyway, so these are some of the suggestions. Improve it, and since you have written a good paper, it's a case study, so it also had the same suggestion which I have given to the previous presenters about the case study method of research, and wish you all the best. So with this, we have completed the first technical session with 4 paper presenters. One paper was absent. Just may I know the organizers, Sukomal ma'am, this reportier's report will be read in this session only or in the valedictory session? Hello? Reportier's report? Yes, please, ma'am.
Okay, the session will be now summed up by the reporter's report. So now I would like to call CA Sonam Agarwal, Assistant Professor, J.S. Lohia Girls College, for the report. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon to all present here. Okay, paper 1 was presented by Shilpa Sahu and Ramjanul Haq, titled as A Study on Perception of Youth Towards Handloom Industry as an Entrepreneurial Activity Leading to Self-Dependent India. The demands for Indian handloom products have been growing globally with considerable demand from the international slow fashion market. Assam, West Bengal, Tamil Nadu are the highest handloom contributors in India. The paper presents the perception of the youth on handloom industry as preferred entrepreneurial activity and the reasons behind it. The objectives of the paper were to know the perception of the respondents regarding handloom industry and their preference towards the industry as entrepreneurial activity. The paper was descriptive in nature using secondary data. Also, primary data have been collected with the help of Google Forms, taking a sample of 50 students of Digboy College. The findings of the paper goes as the handloom industry is suitable for both urban and rural growth. The urban youth have better educational opportunities and can adopt new methods of production, leading to price reduction. Majority of the respondents are partially aware of the various government schemes. Lack of brand name, logo, as well as high prices make the handloom products less attractive to customers. Males are least interested in handloom sectors. A special finding was there in the paper. E-Dhaga mobile app launched by National Handloom Development Corporation is a great step to regulate flow of credit to the sector. Paper 2 was presented by Rajshri Gogoi Borgohain, titled as Role of Incubation Unit with special reference to Northeast Agricultural Technology Entrepreneurs Hub, that is NEET eHub. The paper focuses on the need of education and promotion of entrepreneurship education, and hence institutional setup called incubation unit or incubators was started. NEET eHub was one such incubation unit. The researcher felt a persistent need to study the role and functioning of the concerned incubation unit. The paper also highlights the challenges encountered by the concerned incubation unit in offering such services. Objectives of the paper were to study the service offering of NEET eHub, to know the details of the business ventures supported by NEET eHub, to identify the challenges encountered by them in providing such incubation services. The paper was descriptive and analytical in nature. Open-ended questionnaire was prepared to collect the primary data. The findings of the paper were, the paper stated that different service offerings of the incubation will be of immense help to all those who have innovative ideas. It has been realized that possibilities for working in agriculture and its allied sector is unbounded. Immense support in post-product launch must be equally provided. Financial education for the benefit of deciding the optimal capital structure for business and also for managing one's personal finances is important to be imparted on early stage. Paper 3 was presented by Viveka Gupta, titled as Overcoming the Problems of Water Crisis and Setting up Atmanirbhar Bharat. Rising population and the unsatisfied needs and wants, desire for luxurious life, and shifting towards modern technology increases the demand for water in different sectors. The main focus of the research paper is to evaluate different methods of water consumption by motivating the people of different sectors of India about the essentiality, safety, and security of water conservation. Objectives of the paper were to analyze different methods of water conservation, to encourage people of India and all the different sectors about water conservation in order to ensure self-reliant India. The paper was secondary in nature. The data was collected through journal and different websites. The findings of the paper were, in India as a whole, it is estimated that women spent 150 million work days every year fetching and carrying water, equivalent to a national loss of 1,000 crore. The crisis of India's water is often accredited to lack of government planning, increased corporate privatization, industrial and human waste, and government corruption. Lack of rainwater catchment programs lead to most of the rainwater displaced or dried up instead of used. Excessive construction of roads, bridges, buildings that use concrete and marbles do not let rainwater to get absorbed in the soil, leading to groundwater depletion. Steps such as rainwater harvesting, urban water harvesting, watershed development, zero liquid discharge can help to become self-reliant in water. Paper 4 was presented by Vidushi Chirania and Sambit Swen, titled as Value Chain Framework to Design Solution for Increasing Efficiency in the Post-COVID-19 Scenario, a study on MSME firm. The paper provides a snapshot on the major problems that is being faced in the manufacturing and processing industry due to the outbreak of COVID-19. The report provides the major constraints and challenges faced by the MSME companies due to the pandemic. The objectives of the paper were to comprehend the pre and post COVID-19 impact on food processing industry in general and Ma Durga in specific, to analyze value chain activities for Ma Durga, to identify problems faced due to COVID-19 by Ma Durga using fishbone model. The paper was descriptive and analytical in nature. Survey method was used. Questionnaire was prepared that was sent to respondents through Google Forms. The findings of the paper were 100% of the consumers are keen about precautions and hygiene conditions. 80% of the consumers are facing unavailability of stock in local market. 82% of the consumers are urging to use only natural ingredients in making of papad. Focus to procure more raw material from local vendors. Ma Durga should also have parallel dealers in local geographical area. 65% of consumers agreed to buy products online. Thank you.
Thank you, madam, for your wonderful report hearing. You have concluded everything. So now the session has come to an end, and now this is all from our side. Now I hand over the mic to the organizers. Amit, please.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ajit Singh. And just the customary vote of thanks, though customary, but there were many things which were done in a very proper, systematic, and in some cases even in a humorous manner by the chairperson of this technical session number 1. And first of all, we would like to thank Professor Jain Mishra, who had set the tone for this first technical session with his keynote address, and all the paper presenters who presented their paper and were very precise and specific in their approach. And definitely they would be benefited from the suggestions which were given by the chairperson for the technical session number 1. I would also like to extend my thanks to our technical team and the supporting students who made the technical session number 1 possible. The reporting was an exhaustive report of each and every paper presented in this technical session. But the one person who was the person who took things on his own hand and managed the things in the best form which one could do was Dr. Ranjit Singh, with his smile always, and with his sense of humor, with a movie dialogue in between, that now we can also say, Bhaiya, that sabhi tathyo, gavaho और बयानों के आधार पर we can say that you are one of the best. And thanks for guiding us. Thanks for keeping us smiling always. And we hope that we carry forward this knowledge in the coming sessions. And though you won't join us as a research person in the next session, but we look forward to your presence there as well. So we will be signing off from the organizing team with these words. And we would look forward for your presence in the technical session number 2, which will start from 3 p.m. After the lunch break. Thank you, everyone. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you.